All right, folks. Welcome to the live stream. We'll see if my voice cooperates or not. But this is a really important session, so I thought it's worth it to take a shot here. I mean, the SPY is just getting hammered right now. Let's look at the dynamics of what we have. What we have is in the hourly chart, and that's what really matters. We still got a long way to go before this chart becomes oversold. Um, so I mean, with a failure like this, and this is a huge bearish engulfing candle, I think we might go down to 506.89 today. That would be, around the lows here. And the reason why the SPY is under a lot of pressure is if you look at the VIX. The VIX is doing something really interesting, and I'm watching 1888. And the reason why, if we look at it here, you have a series of higher highs and higher lows. And if this guy makes it above 1888, we're in for a higher high. And that's going to add a lot of pressure on the SPY. And you see here the momentum turning bullish. So a lot of risk here that the VIX could really explode at this point. I mean, it's already surging higher, but let's see how it's going to react around 1888, around that number. The higher it surges, of course, you see a lot of pain here in the SPY. And we talked about the 509 earlier, 509 puts. That's already in the money big time. So now, if you're doing this trade, you probably want to roll down the 500, 505, I would say. The 505 would be an appropriate one. And you just keep going, folks. Of course, on top of that, we have the dollar. That continues to go higher. We have yields. They continue to go higher. So adding pressure from all angles, but you have to look at the components one by one. Apple remains the strong here, folks. Apple remains strong. I'll keep an eye on it, though, because if it gives up 175 and a half and it couldn't really make it above, you'll know that if we take the low of this candle today, which is 173.83, my confirmation would be 173.50. But anyways, if you see how the momentum is now changing in Apple, and if Apple gives up, I think it will add more to the pain in the SPY. And it might actually make the Qs as a better trade than the SPY to the downside. But if we look at NVIDIA, another strong name that you really have to watch for, I mean, you look at this failure that we got in NVIDIA off a lower high, and now we're forming sort of a lower low. If you look at the damage on the daily chart, you can see it here that the market is kind of giving up. So you have the series of lower highs and lower lows. I'm probably going to head down and make a lower low as the 20 is a no-go for the chart. So we're seeing technical breakdowns combined with the geopolitics, combined with hedging, combined by the way, if you look at the USO, you got this range that the chart is trading in. If it keeps this support, it's probably heading back to the highs, and it wants to trade higher. That's going to add more to the misery. And you see here it retested this support a lot, and now it's smashing higher. So I think that we have an attack that's coming really soon, and the market is just not going to feel good. So you'll see more and more hedging all the way till the end. Look at this. I mean, wow. Now we're above 1888. SPY getting absolutely creamed here. We're at 506. I mean, at some point we'll get really oversold and we'll have a rebound, at least an attempt for a rebound. But boy, the hourly chart can take us a little more to the downside. You look at the daily chart. I mean, this is a breakdown. We're now expanding the Bollinger Band. So we're probably going to head to that gap. That could be another target for you to pick, which is the close would be 497. You probably go with the 500 puts. But if you go with the 500, you need more time. You can't take the weekly. If you go with the weekly, you have to go with the 505 and go in increments because the chart is really oversold and you will find a point where you have to rebound. But right now it's in a meltdown. So at the same time, I don't want you to miss out on a meltdown that's happening right now. Anyhow, let's see what you guys are thinking here. Is it volume getting? It's not volume getting yet, but I mean, we're getting close, right? We're getting close to a volatility episode. I think if we pass the highs right here at 21, 22, I think we'll see huge short covering and a huge rebalancing of these bets against volatility that folks been doing for a while now. But this is really interesting. You see the VIX crossing and showing bullish momentum. So until it comes down and begins to turn bearish, so if it does this, it makes a lower high in the MACD and comes down. Until that happens, I don't think the market will find any source of stability here. Okay, we'll keep it at the SPY because, wow, I mean, this is incredible. Just what they're saying right now is there will be a response, and this is not new to us. I think we knew that there was going to be a response. The question now becomes, is it going to be a response by, let's say, assassinating somebody inside there? Or because that could be, they can get a pass on that. But if it is planes coming in and they're bombing, I think it's going to be a full-blown war at that point. Okay, thoughts on the NDX puts at the money for May. That's also okay. If you want to do those, I mean, the chart is rolling over. And most importantly, if you look at the weekly chart, so if you do in the money, that's fine. If you look at the weekly chart, just give it a minute here to come out. You see the MACD is rolling over, so I think we will head down to the 20 weekly moving average, if not even below. So, I mean, this is the time for you to take that kind of trade. Thank you so much, Steve. Mav, I am certainly glad I held into the SPY IYR puts expiring this Friday. Should I hold for a couple of more days? Look, right now, you're seeing this volatility moving higher, and that's going to appreciate your puts. I'm just not sure what happens, read the news and all of that, and you see the VIX, for example, retreating. If that happens, you'll find these options losing a lot of value. So your goal as a trader is to capture maximum value. And right now, I think that the IYR went down so much in the hourly chart that it would just make sense to book the profits. And if you see another opportunity, you'll do it later. But this is a really good trade. I don't want to screw around with it, so I'll book it. And SPY, it's the same thing. If you have shorter expirations for this week, I would book because, I mean, you see that it's oversold. We're probably going to get a rebound, and you want to capture maximum value. Now, if you have May expiration, if you have June's expiration, it doesn't matter. But this week, if you made good profits, I suggest that you book those profits and update the trade by picking a longer expiration date. Stefan Plays, welcome back, Maverick. Appreciate all you do. God bless you. Thank you so much. Are the money managers pressing the sell button? Well, somebody's hedging here, right? Somebody is buying an enormous amount of puts. And again, they're doing so because they're not sure what's going to happen with overnight. I mean, if it was just the attack that happened over the weekend, we just call it as it is, the market would have rallied today and held the rally. But because of this uncertainty that we have an attack coming and we don't know what the nature is of that attack, you're going to find this mentality by the managers. Maybe they're not selling their equities, but they're certainly hedging a lot, and they're buying a lot of VIX. So buying a lot of VIX, meaning buying puts on those assets. So they're hedging for now. I don't think that we're seeing the selling yet. That could come out later, and it could exacerbate the move to the downside. Christina, how are you feeling, Mav? I might have missed you telling us about having a surgery, but that scared me yesterday. I hope it was planned. And not an emergency. It was planned. It was just a procedure, preventable procedure. Just in case, nobody knows what the problem is really, but you have to check your brain, your neurological issues, cardiologist. You have to see that. So we're checking everything, and if they see a problem, they'll work on it. And there was a little bit of a heart problem. Again, they don't think it is the problem, but it wouldn't hurt to be on the safe side. So it was not an emergency. It was just a precaution. And I'm actually more hurt by the flu that I got in the plane, not by the surgery. Anyways, Mav, curious what you ended up doing with the coin trade. Look, coin, I mean, somebody asked me this on Discord. At this point, I mean, what do we got to lose, right? You got $160. Let's see how much it's worth right now. So we have the 220 and we have the 200. And that's worth about 260. It was actually worth 160 earlier on. And the trader wanted to ask what to do with it. And I said, look, we're seeing right now in a volatile week like this. I mean, it's frustrating that it never really played out. It took a long time to play out. But what if it is about to play out right now, tomorrow, into Friday? I'd rather keep that trade right now rather than book it, because we were at 160 just earlier, a couple of hours ago. Now we're 260. Now, if we go down, let's say another 4 or 5% tomorrow, and the trade is profitable, meaning above $5, either we're going to book the profits or it'd be worth it at that time to roll for another week. But for now, I think that at this point, you book it right now, and then we see Coinbase going down tomorrow, and the trade is worth $5. How would you feel, right? So, my 2 cents, I'll just keep it as it is. Now we have to look at Bitcoin, see what it's doing right now. And Bitcoin, if we just clean up the chart, I mean, it looks to me as it's consolidating in a bear flag. It doesn't look to me that it's going to make a recovery. It looks as it wants to snap to the downside. If it does, that's going to add more downside in Coinbase. So my 2 cents, I'll just keep it. But again, if that money is important to you and you can't live without, then I would say cut it, because $250, that's a good amount of money for a trade. And I'll take it if I need it. But otherwise, I'll just keep the trade as it is. Okay. NDX, SPX, sell signals broken. I mean, everything's broken right now. Everything's broken because we have no idea how the response is going to be. And by the way, what you like to see is a rebound right now, and then a resumption of the sell-off at the end of the day. Because that's going to give you an opportunity, if you missed out on this drop, give you an opportunity to enter again. I'll continue to watch the VIX, because the moment the VIX stops, and see now in the hourly, it's kind of struggling here. I mean, Israel says there is a response, and I think there's going to be a response. I want to watch the VIX here. If it gives up 1888, we might have a rebound trade in the SPY. And suppose then we go down, find support right here, and come back up. That will give you another trade to the downside. But right now, I think that the VIX is a little too hot. Yeah, and the 10 minutes too, so wouldn't be surprised to see a rebound here in the SPY. Too risky, though, to take the rebound trade. I would wait for 546.89 to be crossed and then probably take the 548 if you must. Otherwise, you just wait for a rebound and take it to the downside again. But it all depends on the VIX here. And if the VIX makes it above 1888 again, it's going to add more to the misery. And then USO is something that we have to continue to watch. You got your gap here. It might face some resistance, but it looks to me as if you look at the hourly MACD, it looks as it's about to curl up and move higher. So do you buy USO calls? That could be another bet. It's going to be really volatile, though. If nothing happened overnight, you're probably going to see USO going down. So I think that SPY puts is the best hedge for now, given how the VIX is reacting. Let's look at the defense contractors, because those is going to tell us also what's going on here. You see the spike in Lockheed in the last couple of minutes. You see the spike here in Raytheon. It's been trading hot throughout the day. Raytheon up about 1%. Let's see what Boeing is doing, because Boeing is involved in the defense system. Boeing is not doing anything at all, so we'll keep it here at the SPY, see how it's going to react. Hope you're feeling good. What are your thoughts on RKK? 45 puts, April 26th. I think we should stick with that one, right? Because we still got 1 week left. And with yields going higher, I mean, we're already now below 45. Let's see how much it's worth at this point. 26, and we have the 45. It's about $139. So the trade is profitable. I leave this one up to you. You know, if you want to book it, I mean, the hourly chart is really oversold. And if we have any retreat in the VIX by the end of the day, I think that all of these assets are going to rebound. But again, the daily chart, since you have 1 week left, can we extend this decline a little more? We're not oversold at all, so we can see a little more. The discipline would say you book half and then you let the other half ride. So that's probably what I'm going to do with the RKK trade for now. What bugs me is the Apple trade. If you didn't book that one, I mean, they just got it on Thursday. That was a nasty one. Anyways, good morning, Maverick. I hope you're feeling better. Check up went okay. Thank you so much. Do you think there is a correlation between the VIX and HUBC and SPCB? Is the pop today sustainable given the geopolitical risk? So if you look at HUBC, Hub Cybersecurity, I mean, it could be. Let's see what Palo Alto is doing. Not so much, but maybe this one is more directly involved with it. I mean, it could be. This is an Israeli cybersecurity company, so it's more involved in that conflict. So yes, I think that this is directly related. And then you have SPCB, Supercom. I think that's also involved in it. Let's see here. Tel Aviv, Israel. Yes, so I mean, you'll see all of these security companies in Israel moving higher. I would say it's the same thing. It's just the same thing as the defense contractors that we have here. It's only going to be more amplified in the Israeli stock market. So yes, it goes along with the VIX. I'm just not sure if you want to chase these assets, though. I would pick them up since it is cheap. It's only half a buck a piece, so I'll pick some up as a lotto ticket. But a more sustainable one would be something like the USO or the VIX, meaning that you go with the SPY puts. Speaking of the SPY, since the VIX is having trouble with that line, 1888, we might see a rebound here. And again, where's the rebound will get us if we have a rebound? I think that if we go to the 15 minutes chart, you always have to look at, no, that's too much. We have to look at these breakdown candles from different timelines. And I think that if we rebound right now, the high here, say the open would be 547.89, so 508. So if we want to play a rebound, I'll go with the 508 and then wait for it to come back down again, because I don't think the VIX is going to give up. I see no reason for the VIX to give up today. You'll see more demand on it by the end of the day again. Okay. What do you think of MTB? It popped after earnings, although S&P downgraded it a couple of weeks ago. Good to get puts at the money for May. MTB. The banks are weak across the board, but this one here, because of earnings, got a little pop. Now, do you buy puts on it fading this rip that we got? I would say that why not pick something that's already looking weak? MTB's, I mean, it got a downgrade, sure, but it's been holding a really good range. So I don't want to pick against it here, especially after a pop that we got in the volume here rising. See, the volume is rising with the buy, so I probably don't want to pick up against this one here and just bet to close the gap right away. I'll pick something weaker, something that's been already showing signs of a breakdown like Xeon. If you look at the weekly chart, it looks like this guy here is rolling over. And you see it in the MACD indicator in the weekly. So there are a lot of banks in the regional bank sector that are weaker right now. At more risk with rates going higher. I'd pick on those because they're going to begin to snap really soon. MTB is a little stronger than, say, Xeon. And even if we look here at the regional bank sector, we'll find some weaker names. MTB, I mean, a little stronger than the rest. But if you look at the smaller, like Key, for example, that's been weak. First Horizon, I mean, all of these names, you want to pick on the weaker ones, not the stronger ones. And Xeon really interests me here at this point, because it's been at risk, and with higher rates, I think it's going to be at more risk. Okay, 5100 SPX, 17940 NDX, CTA starts selling as far as I know. 5100 for the SPX. 5100 is already done, so once you lose that, you're obviously going to see a selling program. But also the retracement could take you back to 5100. If there's a rebound, it might take you back up to 5100. So you got to keep that number in mind. Now, it comes down to whether we're going to close below 5100 or not. And of course, if we close below 5100, then it brings up the risk of 5000. That becomes the next risk, and 5,000 is in or around the gap that you see here. And I think it's inevitable that we're going to go down and fill this gap. And we're going to challenge 5,000. Maybe we'll find some support at 5,000. But I think that 5,100, even if there's a retracement today, I think it's a done deal. And we go down to 5,000. Welcome back, Mav. Good to hear everything worked out besides catching up the flu. Anyhow, I can't seem to catch a cold. I missed out so far on the major pullbacks in the indices. Okay, so you got to do something here, right? You don't want to watch the correction happening and you're just sitting there. So you have to take a shot. And if you look at the SPY, if you look at the Qs, I mean, all of them, if you look at the weekly charts, they're all saying that correction is underway, right? You only got about 2 weeks of correction right now because this one doesn't count. And here, when the turnaround happened last summer, we got 3 weeks to the downside from a lower high, and then we went down. So you still have opportunity in catching this trade. But you got to make up your mind. And I think that if you look at the VIX, the weekly chart, that's moving higher. The daily chart's moving higher, the geopolitical risk. So I would think that you should be taking some opportunity here in playing these pullbacks and corrections. Now, if you think that you're chasing the SPY, you're a little too late. When you look at the IWM, that's also weakening. And maybe it's a little weaker than the SPY, that it could produce a bigger drop below 190. You also have the individual names that you could pick on. If you see NVIDIA, I mean, we talked about NVIDIA, the lower highs. If you can afford it, maybe NVIDIA is the way to go. SMH could be another good pick because that's also closing below the gap today. So if we just identify a gap here, you can see that we're closing below the gap and momentum is shifting to the downside. And I don't think you'll be chasing here. If you bet against the SMH, it'll be a lot cheaper than NVIDIA because here momentum is also changing. So I think you snap back and find support in or around this number here, 188.66. So you still got a lot of corrections to play. With that being said, we're looking at a weekly chart, right? So your expiration date has to be realistic. And going to April or going to May, any rebound in the daily could hurt you. So you probably want to go to June and beyond in picking these corrections straight. And they're going to play off. They'll pay off. If you make 200, 300% out of them, that's a win. So you have a lot of options to still play a correction. You're not too late. Hey, Mav, I'm a long-term listener, first-time caller. Nate, thank you so much. What is the take on gold? I think it is surprising. Here we go. I think it is surprising for people that gold is still holding pretty good. Gold, I think it was ready to pull back because it is way overbought. You have the Dixie, you have all of that problem. So gold is, or was at least, ready to go down, but now we have this geopolitical tension. So the only catalyst left right now, keeping gold from correcting, is the geopolitical issue. And if that's somehow resolved, I think that gold will pull back. In the meantime, can you hold on to gold? I mean, look at how the proxies. So gold, GLD did not recover yet. GDX, on the other hand, today's weaker. So I would not go with the GDX because the GDX will be involved in the stock market, and any sell-off in the stock market will dump the equities all in all, indiscriminately. So you have to be careful with the gold miners. If you have to chase gold, I would say go with either the SLV or the GLD. If you're betting on the geopolitical tension right now, not the miners. The miners will be hammered as we see a sell-off in the market because of the VIX going higher. If you want my opinion, I would say for the geopolitical risk, I would go with oil versus GLD. Because USO, for example, is not really that overbought in the daily, and it found some support here, so I'd rather go with, and if you look at it, we talked about the cup and handle, look at the weekly chart here. You'll see that cup and handle playing out, and I don't think it's going to give up. I think that USO wants to crack above, let's say 83.25, the previous high, and rally higher, back to the 22 highs. So I think that the USO is probably a better opportunity than GLD right now. Okay, got the I got call. SPX sell triggers 5092. Let's take a look at the SPX really quickly, see how it's reacting. Here's the 3 minutes. Oh, it's given up, folks. So let's see what's happening with the VIX here. The VIX finding support, 1888, meaning that the VIX wants to go higher now. It found that support. Look at it. See, if it found that support now, the VIX wants to go and take this high. So which means that the SPY are probably going to suffer. And it's not done finding a bottom. 505 already, folks. And it just keeps going. We'll keep looking at it here, folks. Interesting. Really interesting. And the VIX is the guide. Oh, definitely going down. We still have a lower flush coming for the SPY until it finds that support. Let's see. On the hourly, where can we find support, since we couldn't find it here at 546.89. If we go down, folks, I don't see another support. I mean, you can argue that maybe we have some support here at 504, but I think it'll be 503. That could be the next support. I think 503 could be the number. Okay, when doing longer term trades, do you trade the 30 delta or in the money? What is your strategy? Depending on the chart. So, certain trades like the NDX, the SPX, probably in the money usually will be the most rewarding trades. When you do individual stacks, you probably want to go a little out of the money. So delta matters in individual stacks depending on the chart. But a general rule, for us to flip profits and options, you have to go a little outside of the money because you're betting on a probability for something to happen, not something that already happened. The most rewarding option trades are out of the money, slightly out of the money, because you're betting on something, the probability of something happening. And as the probability increases, the value of that contract also increases. The in-the-money contracts, they're safer, but that probability already been done. That probability already played out. So you're not going to see as much appreciation. This is why in-the-money puts and calls make sense if you're betting big amounts and you're trading the SPX, the NDX. But in individual names, if you're just picking a bet for this month or next month expiration, and you have a limited amount that you're dedicating for that trade, you probably want to go out of the money rather than in the money. What do you consider just out of the money? The next strike price depends. So every chart depends. So for example, NVIDIA. Suppose if we're playing, if we're looking at the chart here, and we're looking for, let's identify a pattern of lower highs, and we're looking for a lower low. So we're betting that we might find support in or around this consolidation zone. So 800 will make sense. And if we go to 800, NVIDIA 800, that'll be a break even of about 8.5% drop. So you probably don't want to do it in shorter term expirations. If you're going that far out of the money, you probably want to go for longer term expiration to muff the decay, but that's going to cost you a lot. Okay, so if that's not an option to you, then you have to look at a different time frame, which is the hourly chart, and you look at a shorter time horizon. Where do we see the next drop in NVIDIA? How about fitting a gap here? 820 on the hourly chart. Last time we were here were Friday, March 1st. Can we drop here in a correction by if NVIDIA goes down and fill this gap at around 820? Yes. So we can go with the 820, slightly closer to the money, and we can pick a shorter expiration date, such as the 26. 19 will be a little too aggressive for a break even of 5.9%, but the 26 will be okay. Now, if we see that as support, there's another way to play it. You don't have to take the shot at the 820. You can assume that that's going to be support. So you take a shot above it at, let's say, the 840, and then you sell that support at 820. And that's going to reduce your entry cost a little bit. So instead of paying $9, you'll probably pay $5.60, and the break even becomes lower. So this is how I look at these trades, because if you buy in the money in NVIDIA, it'll cost you more. And then if it goes the other way, you'll just lose more. Opposite to a trade like this, where the risk is defined between 840 820 with a specific timeline, you're only risking a specific amount. Rather than going in the money, for example, right now we're trading at 868. So if we go 867 and a half, and we pick, for example, the 26, will cost you a lot. And then if there is a move, for example, to the upside in NVIDIA, we're back at 900. You can see here you'll be losing 50% of a bigger bet. So I'd like to have the risk as small as possible, but also as rational as possible, given the probability of profitability, if that makes sense. You don't want to go way out of the break-even range, because you see here 3.1, right? When you buy in the money, you break even at 3.1. But the trade that I just showed you, 840, and then you sell the 820, is really close to the break-even of the money, in the money trade, and you're paying a fraction. So to me, this trade makes more sense than the in-the-money trade for NVIDIA. Anyhow, let's go back to the SPY. Do we find support? Let's look at the VIX. The VIX, I don't think the VIX has given up, folks. Unless it's making this lower high and heads down, then the SPY will find support, but it's just a little too strong for comfort right now. Israel IDF is speaking right now. We just started a press conference, so yeah, we'll see what they say. I mean, we're getting some breaking news here. I hope that makes sense, because I'm not sure if I explained it pretty good, but I think this example was pretty good, right? Because you see the break even. Your goal is to have as close as you can in the break even to the one that's in the money, which is the, let's say the 870 right now. That's the goal, is to get as close as the break even, but with spending less and slightly out of the money. VIX is a little weaker here, but we can't take comfort in that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the SPY trying to rebound. See in the 3 minutes, it tried here, and it couldn't make it. Now it's a little severely oversold, so can it fix that momentum a little bit and rally to the 508? I think that's a possibility, folks, if the VIX is done. And you just said that we have the conference by the IDF. If they're not going to strike today, then I think that we'll see a little bit of a recovery, just a little bit, not too much, because the question will be, okay, when it's going to happen. So anyhow, folks, if we look at the dollar, any update here, anything that we have to look at? Not really. I mean, the dollar is just moving higher retail sales today, but it's not bothering copper. It's not bothering gold. It's not bothering silver. You look at copper today is really hot. Copper is up about 2.25%. Silver up about 1.5%. So this is baffling to a lot of market observers that we're seeing copper and silver and gold moving higher. But I think that metals also have a degree of sensitivity to bond yields. So sure, the dollar is going higher in anticipation of the Fed maybe having to tighten, not to loosen. But at the same time, when you see that bond yields are moving higher, they're indicative of higher inflation. So this is why we're seeing copper, we're seeing metals holding, but specifically copper today. Now, if we look at the VIX, let's do one last look here. I want to look at the hourly chart. The risk is still to the upside, folks. That in the last hour, we could see the VIX coming back. But in the short run, we formed that lower high, and we're coming down. So here's the dynamic. I think that the SPY will try to recover a little bit. 508 will be the maximum target for a rebound to me. And then if we look at the VIX, I think it'll come back by the end of the day. I think it'll find support and come back. So you have two trades here. You have the rebound trade that you can follow. In the SPY, I think it's a little too risky, but again, you can take a shot in the stronger names that were strong throughout the day. For example, if you look at NVIDIA, this one been always catching a bid as it drops. So there could be a trade here for a rebound. But again, before the end of the day, you probably see the VIX catching a bid. I don't know if it's going to be from this low, probably a little lower. And you'll see another drop. So up to you which trade you want to follow. The recovery, 507, 508 max, or you want to take it down later at the end of the day. And you'll know by watching the VIX. That's the only one you have to watch for today. VIX, see now it's kind of finding some footing, but I think if you look at the 15 minutes, you'll get a little softer here. This is going to be an important support. It might go down below it a little bit and then come back up again. And you also want to look for USO because that's also a pulse for what's going on. USO probably has the gap. If it begins to close above the gap, say the 15, then you check the 30. It's closing above the gap. Then you check the hourly. It's above the gap. Then it's all more the risk that you have that USO is moving higher. And with it, the VIX will move higher and will give us a flush down by the end of the day again in the indices. Okay, folks, we're just going to leave it at that. And we'll be again on Discord in the closing hour. How often do you trade in general? Day trades or do you stick more to swing trading? So I've been doing a lot of day trading. I did a lot today. And I'll show you these trades in the show tonight. But you'll see that the risk is huge. And I'll show you the lessons also, the mistakes that are almost done. Because all of them were profitable. And all of them were in NVIDIA, by the way. But all of them were profitable, but there was a lot of risk. And you'll realize that day trading, it's a risky business. Swing trading is a lot better because the risk is defined. But we'll talk about day trading because a lot of folks want to do it. On SPY, I've been seeing a gap the opposite of the daily run. Okay, let's look at the gap because a lot of people have been talking about this. And the idea is we have a gap above here. And maybe that's going to be closed. That the market's going to recover and close it. The problem is if you look at the daily chart, we're not seeing a gap here. So this gap been filled, the gap here been filled in the daily, so I'm not seeing any gap that was left open. We have the gap below, which I think that's going to be the target for now, for this correction. That's going to be, let's say 500-ish. I think we'll go down there. That's going to be SPX 5000. You'll find buyers, you'll find support there, but after that, if the geopolitics still flaring up, if the inflation problem is still flaring up, I think we lose 5,000. If we lose 5,000, I think that's what's going to initiate a big flush down / a volume getting trade, because 5,000 been a really important number. A lot of folks were waiting to buy the SPX only after it goes above 500. So you have a lot of people here that'll be underwater, and they'll begin to rush to the exit door. Even these guys right here who bought close to 5,000, they'll begin rushing to the exit door. We're not there yet, so we're not going to speculate on it too much. For now, what we have for the day, the most immediate thing we have to watch for is the VIX and how it trades with the SPY. Clean up this a little bit. The VIX is just too strong, folks. It is too strong. Look, it made the lower high, and now it wants to come back up. So we have to look at we have to trust the hourly, folks. We have to trust the hourly that the momentum is surging higher, and that's going to impact the SPY negatively. I see it as oversold, to be honest with you, but not that oversold. It can get really oversold at around 503. So again, up to you, folks. What trade do you want to do? I would not do the rebound trade until I'm certain that the VIX is at least done from an intraday chart perspective, and it doesn't look like it's done here. I'd like to say, for example, something such as in the 3 minutes, another lower high, and we come down. That'll give me more comfort that there is a rebound play. But since the momentum, the overwhelming momentum today is to the downside, you're probably better off playing not the rebound, but playing more downside. Just love to see the VIX cooling go off, giving us a rebound, then we play more downside by the end of the day. Anyhow, folks, we're just going to wrap it up right here and come back during the closing hour in Discord. Okay, gap is overnight. The gap you're talking about here, the gap is overnight. To open the next day. Maybe you're looking at the E-mini futures, right? Maybe that's what you're looking at. The E-mini futures, I'm not seeing any gaps here either. And by the way, the E-mini futures, and you see the loss of momentum, expanding the Bollinger Bands. The equivalent will be 5,000. I think 5,000 is the inevitable number, folks. So if you're trading the futures, aim for 5,000. Trading the SPX, aim for 5,000. If you're trading the SPY, you got to aim for the 500, but that's not going to be this week. Has to be 2 weeks in advance. I would go to the May expiration, to be honest with you. And then I'll sell the 490. Anyhow, again, before we wrap it up, folks, you got a rebound play if you got the guts to play it, the 548. I don't think I'm going to play it because it's just too risky. I'd love to see the rebound, then take it to the downside by the end of the day. Anyhow, we're just going to wrap it up right here, but we'll be in Discord during the closing hour. So we'll see you there. Take care.